What skills are good in Umamusume? What should I pick? I've been asked that question a couple times, and here I am on the skill list on GameTora because I'm not going to go over every single skill, right, and say this one's good, this one's bad, especially since a lot are pretty situational. So I'm just going to show you how to look at them, how to decide for yourself, basically, which ones are good. And I'm kind of going to go in order down the list of skill types and just give how to read them, what scenarios you use them in. First of all, green skills. Are they useful? Are they not? Short answer is they're a little bit useful. See, if you look at these like grand-handed skills, this will boost your speed by 40, and a lot of the green skills follow that same sort of idea. Double circle will boost your speed by 60, or whatever stat they are, and gold versions, if you manage to get one of those, will not boost the same stat by 80 like you think, it just boosts a second one by 60. So in short, the gold versions are going to be pretty good. The double circles aren't going to be that great. Single circles are going to be okay. Are they better than a normal velocity skill? No, definitely not. Even for the price, I think they're a tiny bit of a scam. But there's quite a few reasons why you would pick them. One, they let you go over the stat cap, so you can go over the speed cap, over the power cap, over the stamp cap if you want. Also, they still do cost less, so if you have extra skill points left over, you could definitely grab yourself one of those. And being low on the skill points is probably their biggest drawing point. Why you would pick one of these is because maybe one of your velocity skill is cheaper than the other because you have 3 hints on your pace chaser corners versus a more expensive skill like Ignited Spirit Speed. You could get pace chaser corners plus right-handed instead of only Ignited Spirit Speed, for instance. And at times like those where you would pick the green skills, otherwise they're not too great. There's a few other situations which you would. One is for groundwork, obviously. That's a skill that requires you to use 3 skills in the early race. These count as activating an early race, so you could use groundwork immediately by activating 3 of these, and they always activate. Oh, they're activation guaranteed. They're not a wit check like early taking the lead would be, like perfect prep would be. So these are always going to be activated, and also for Barracola Blessings, which is your TM Opera O's her unique skill, which requires you to activate 7 skills before it activates in order to give you a figure speed boost. These count towards that. And towards the future, there's going to be a few more skills like this, like that follow the same principle, which you have to activate a certain amount of skills. I think Ignition is one, you have to activate skills in the early race, things like that. So for the most part, you don't have to think too hard about the green skills. And obviously, don't go for these three. These 3 types of green skills aren't going to be very useful unless you need them unless you have the extra skill points or you need them for the groundwork, for the blessings. Don't go for Lucky 7, obviously, because this one will just boost wit and this one will just boost guts, which aren't very useful stats to waste your skill points on. Next up is basically, I think this is even more straightforward. This is just a recovery skill. And it's here that I'm going to show you how you can actually read what they do. Because you go to GameTora, you click more, because if you read this, recover endurance or wall boost in mid-race, what does that even mean? Well, you can see here it has these conditions, and it's kind of mumbo-jumbo, but you can show the read to the positions in viewer. So, order, what does this mean? Current position, order, less than or equal to 3, meaning you're currently first, second, and third. This is order greater than or equal to 2, order rate less than or equal to 40. So you have to be number 2 or later in the race. You can't be first, and you also have to be in the top 40%, basically. So in a CM, I believe it's going to be, if you click here, it's going to say, yeah, 4. So you need to be rank 2 to 4 for this skill to activate. And phase equals random 1. This is just going to be, it's going to be random in the mid-race, because 1 is the mid-race. So that's how you're going to see basically the conditions for a lot of these skills and when they're going to be good. So Clear Heart, not too hard to activate, right? For a Pace Chaser at least. Corner recovery. Very random, just going to be on a corner. That's very, very easy. So that's going to be usable on everyone. On everyone. Iron Will. This is going to be a harder one because you have to be phase less than or equal to 1, so you have to be mid-race or earlier. You also have to be blocked for at least a second. And accumulate time, it needs to be at least 5 seconds into the race. So it's not going to activate right out the beginning if you have to be blocked. It's going to be at least 5 seconds in. So it's still going to be kind of bad if it activates 5 seconds in, but you get the idea. And the only thing I really have to say about these stamina skills is you don't want them to be hard to activate, and you don't want them to activate early in the race. So that's what makes Breath of Fresh Air a bit inconsistent, because it can proc in the beginning of the straight and not give you the full stamina recovery. That's what makes Iron Will inconsistent. 1, you need to be blocked, and 2, it can activate earlier mid-race. You don't mind if it activates mid-race, but it can't activate late race, which sucks. It's only earlier mid-race, which kind of makes it very, 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 very conditional when it actually helps you or not. Indomitable. Also, you have to be past another runner. It's not super hard to proc, but it can not proc, so it's a more consistent than corner recovery. So just think about that when you're looking at your stamina skills. Will this activate for me? No. Let's look at these velocity skills. Velocity skills are going to be very important. You're going to want these on every single race you do, every single CM, every single team trials. You're going to want these on every single Uma you run in those, unless you're a pure debuffer, because these are how you win races. These are how you stay in the lead. This is how you push up mid-race in order to have a better last spurt. This is going to do all of those. This is how you start the early game better. And this is kind of just going to follow the same rules as the stamina skills. You're really just going to want to make sure that you can proc it at a decent time. Most of the time is decent for velocity skills, unlike the stamina recovery skills. If you proc them in the early game, that's going to be fine for you. You're going to get a better start than the rest of your opponents. So in general, you're going to want these skills whenever they activate. The only exception really is like right at the end of the race. Home stretch race is kind of inconsistent because at a random point in the first half of the last spurts, the first half of the last spurt helps a lot, but it could still activate too late and not give you the full speed boost. So it's a bit worse than a lot of the other speed skills just because it costs so much compared to Corner Adept right here. This costs 10 more, but it's a lot more consistent, and 10 more isn't really an issue, right? You also get this with hints usually. But that doesn't mean the Helm Switch Chase is bad. It's still fine. Because anything that helps you go faster is just going to help. You're going to want mid-leg speed skills, you're going to want end-leg speed skills, because if you activate it towards the late race, you could also get speed carryover. So basically, as long as you can activate a velocity skill, make sure to get the velocity skill. It's just good. There's no reason not to, unless you're low on skill points. Then maybe want your XL skill instead or something. Whatever it is, just keep in mind that these are no downside skills, basically, unless they won't proc for you. And sometimes the wording is weird, like slightly increased spurting ability, position towards the back. What does this mean? It's speed and acceleration. Sometimes they'll say weird stuff and it'll still just be velocity, like Prayer to Pass. Increased ability to break out of the pack. And it just speed. Why does it say this? I don't know, just to confuse you probably. Slightly increased ability to go to the front. What does that mean? Does it mean acceleration? No, it's just another speed skill. So if you're confused, I think go on Game Tora. Just make sure to look at it real quick. Make sure it actually does what you think it does, or else you will be burned. Next up we have acceleration skills, and these are very, very, very important, but newer players often misunderstand them. Because they're a lot different than velocity skills. You don't want them at any time. You want them right before the final spurt. And I'll show you an example right here. Let's get this race course. You don't want an acceleration skill anywhere except If you're a front runner, you want it right at the beginning. But that's groundwork. We'll talk about groundwork a bit later. And anyone else, you don't want acceleration skill anywhere except right here, towards this late race, this little double arrows, this blue section. You don't care about acceleration skills until right here, or right before there, or a little bit after there. Ideally, you want it to proc right here when it starts, or a tiny bit earlier so you carry that acceleration in. So what that means for acceleration skills is corner acceleration and connoisseur is terrible. It's a random corner, any corner. Let's go back to this example. It can proc here, it can proc here, it can proc here, or it could proc here. That's a 1 in 4 chance that even if you hit the witch hack and it activates, a 1 in 4 chance that it's going to activate at the right time, and a tiny bit late anyway. It would still be good if it procs here, but it's just really, are you spending your hard-earned skill points on this? 180 skill points, by the way, for this skill. No, you're not. Straight acceleration follows the same principle. These two are only really useful on sprint tracks and specific sprint tracks because they're so short where they only have one straight where you want to excel, or one corner that you want to excel, or two, and they're still going to be gambly because at a random point on the straight, if we're talking about our corner skill again, this could activate right here, right, and be good, or it could activate right here and do nothing, do basically nothing for you. So when you're looking at acceleration skills, you want ones that activate preferably consistently. Let's look at Slick Search. This is the Late Surger's acceleration skill. And it's going to activate at phase random 2, which is going to be late race, which is random point in the late race. So if we look back at this, it's going to always proc in this blue-green area. Is it going to proc right at the beginning always? No. That's why it's a gambling excel skill. It's not a consistent excel skill. But it's going to be a lot more consistent than Corner Connoisseur, and that is why it's just a lot better, because you're cutting out 75% of this nonsense and just giving yourself a chance that it can actually do something good for you. And to talk about Slick Surge, why I don't like Slick Surge, order rate less than 50, order rate greater than 50, or whatever, you have to be in the second half, which is 5th or lower. And I believe it doesn't actually mean 5th or lower, it means 6th or lower, just because of how it rounds. And that's just bad, because you want to be pushing up as a late surger. But my gripes with Slick Surge put away, there's other ones which are going to be terrible. Slightly increased acceleration passing of the runner mid-race. Why would you ever want this skill when you actually look at the conditions? In the mid-race, which means not the late race, you're just going to hope it's right at the end of the mid-race and you get the carry over the acceleration, and you have to pass another runner? That's so inconsistent. What if you don't pass another runner during that time period? Then you're just cooked. You don't get this at all. So there are going to be some that are more consistent than others. Like I mentioned, Slick Surge, Hit On is going to be the same version. Pace Chaser. We're going to have Highlander over here to give acceleration on an uphill. So if you look at the map, if there's an uphill right there, or at the final stretch, then sure, go ahead and take Highlander. It's going to be good. There's going to be lots of skills like that. That's why normally when you're looking at videos for CM, they will say that they'll give you the inherits for your acceleration skill, because the unique skills normally always activate at a specific time. So those are going to be a bit better for acceleration skills. Like, let's look at angling and scheming. This is always going to activate on a corner in the late race or the last spurt. This is going to be probably one of the most consistent acceleration skills you could have, things like that. Next up, we have the lane movement skills. These are kind of bad in general. what they do is they give you lane movement speed, which is it's interesting. I believe it gets buffed later on in Japanese servers. We're not in Japan yet. We're in global, and it's not very good right now. The only exception is front runners. One can use them to get groundwork activated, and they also kind of get a bit of a speed boost early, because what they do is they move you towards the inner rail. So if you have that late movement speed right when the sort of inner rail spurt activates, I don't know how to describe it, but after you go a little bit down the track, then you'll be able to move to the middle rail. You'll be ahead, and you'll have this late movement speed. Bam, right to the inner rail. Then you'll be getting that nice little speed boost by being close to the corner when you turn. That's going to be kind of helpful. Other than that, doesn't really matter. Forward march gives you acceleration too, so make sure you check out what they do. Meticulous measures, I believe, also gives excel, yeah. And burning spirit wit, we'll talk about field of view a bit later. Focus, concentration, gate kept feeling a bit silly. Okay, weird names aside, these are fine for front runners, and I guess they're okay on phase chasers. They'll reduce your start delay. Every Uma has start delay, whether or not it says late start or not. But this will just give you less start delay. It's a multiplier, and you'll be out the gate a bit quicker. It's helpful, right? It's activates right at the beginning too, so the groundwork skill. Nothing much to say about this. Field of view skills. They don't really do anything. When they extend or widen your field of view, that just means you can hit debuffs from farther away. That's all. Don't buy these unless you're like a dedicated debuffer. Even if you have some debuffs and you're an ace, you're not a debuffer, don't buy this. It's a waste of skill points. Unless you literally have nothing else better to spend it on. Speaking of debuffs, we have these four, and debuffs are a really interesting topic. I don't want to go too into detail on here. Short answer is they're all in general okay, except this last one. I'll talk about that one a bit later. And this one actually. Because these will decrease the velocity a little bit. That's the opposite of a regular white skill, right? These ones are pretty good. They'll decrease the speed by 0.25. What makes them great? All enemies ahead of you. Every one of them on this Petrifying Gaze, on this Dominator. Petrifying Gaze is a bit worse. It's field of view, as I said. So these AoE debuffs are going to be kind of great. Is it going to win you races? Maybe. Maybe not. Is it worth the skill points? It's hard to say. I think they're a bit worse than a speed skill. But their skill is going to be kind of useful, right? If you know there's going to be a lot of front runners, hesitant front runners will be a decent pickup. It might be better than a speed skill. The stamina debuffs are even more, I think, kind of hard to say if they're good or not. If your opponents don't overstam, they just barely hit the stamp threshold, one or two of these will do it. If they are having a decent amount of extra stamp, you're going to need a lot of these in order to do something. You're going to need an All-Seeing Eyes and a Mystifying Murmur. And then you might see some opponents die out. And that'll obviously win you the race if you manage to drain them of stamina. If you manage to drain them of stamina, you need to hit it first, and you need to make sure they don't have too much stamina where they live. That's why Mystifying Murmur is pretty good. All ahead of you. All-Seeing Eyes, field of view. So you won't really be hitting those front runners. So if you're worried about the front runners, All-Seeing Eyes won't help you make them run out of stamina. Mystifying Murmur will. And it's a medium skill, so that's why medium skills you have to run out. You have to watch out for debuffers a lot, because you have this Mystifying Murmur running around, you have this Dominator running around. And those are kind of scary skills to go up against. Buy them if you can, and their other counterparts, this Tether. Tether is good. and the all-seeing eyes, the sharp gaze. It's fine to just have those, I think. The frenzy and the field of view debuffs. Field of view debuffs, terrible, obviously. What are you trying to do with them? Are you trying to lower are you trying to lower your opponent's debuffs range? This is nonsense. Don't pick this. Frenzy. Yeah. Don't pick this either. It's just way too specific. Because you have to increase the amount of time. You increase the amount of time they get rushed. Now, do you know what Rush does, is the question. Rushed is they extend more stamina in order to enter a pace-up mode, which basically makes them go faster. So you can run out of stamina with this. Or if they have extra stamina, you'll just make them go up even further. Which this kill can actively be a detriment to you. Unlike basically everything else here. So don't pick these. The only one I would consider picking is Primal Nurse. Do not pick the rest. They're just going to help the opponents push up further and get a better excel and then win the game on you. And that's all the skills. So we looked at everything. I look at actually unique skills real quick. So I just want to say that unique skill levels don't actually improve them very much at all. It's a very, very small difference, if I remember correctly. Do I have a source on that? No. Will I put it on the screen right now? No. You just have to trust me because it was revealed to me in a dream. Don't worry too much about the level of your unique skill. It just affects your score mainly. It'll give you a tiny, tiny bit of a boost. Now, a lot of people seem to think that the inherits are super strong. They're a lot weaker than they are. I'll look at angling and scheming real quick, and that doesn't mean they're bad, but they are going to cost a lot of skill points. 200. You're going to have 1 to 3 hints on these usually because of your star rankings. And this is not only half the effectiveness. This is 1.5 seconds less of duration too. So this is going to be like a quarter as powerful as the normal angling scheming. So just keep that in mind when you see, oh my gosh, wait, this inherited skill actually works. I'm a light surger. I have what's it called? I have Shadow Break. Right, should I buy this? Well, let's look at the inherited version. Let's give you 0.25 speed, that's good. If you hit the block precondition in mid-race, it's going to give you 0.25 speed. Let's say it inherits that gives you 0.15. Well, it's just going to be more expensive than normal velocity skill. If it was a worse inherit. Shadow Break's a good inherit, but there are some that are bad, and that basically would just only do this, and just be a more expensive version of another velocity skill. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at unique skill inherits, and do look at their conditions. Don't just buy every unique, please. And I think that's going to do it for this video, so see ya.